Hello and welcome to Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, Arcn Television. I am Hilda Homsem Frantuam. On today's special report, the Gender and Youth Unit of Arcn recently unveiled the gender policy and strategy, a fragment for gender inclusiveness in the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria system. In the welcome remark, Executive Secretary ARCN, Professor Garba Hamidu Shaributu, applauded the unit and admonished his unconditional support in any areas they will be needing.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria is a parastatal under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. And that, at this point, I need to say that that is what has actually made the appearance of my dear doctor here very important, because she is representing not the PAMSEC, she's representing the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, the authority that actually endorsed this paper. Ma, we are really very happy for having you here. And you know very well, Ma, that the Agricultural Research Council is one of the most loyal of all the agencies under your organization. And we really appreciate the fact that the Permanent Secretary, despite his busy schedule, apart from sending you here, also called personally to say that he's sending somebody. And of course, I argued with him that if you are sending somebody, you better send a man. He said, no, I'm not sending a man. I'm sending an officer who is in charge of gender. I said, well, subsequently, we have to review this so that once in a while, the head of gender should also be a man, because I know that the budget in that office is always very big. So it should not just be for the women alone. But just like I said, the parastatal is under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. If you recall, we have a good number of agricultural research institutes in this country, and these research institutes have been functioning in isolated fashion. And there was a need for us to actually reorganize ourselves and bring ourselves together in such a way that there will be no duplication of function. Today, we have a total of 16 agricultural research institutes under us, established by an act of the National Assembly. And in addition to those 16 agricultural research institutes, we also have 16 plus 1 federal colleges of agriculture and related discipline. I say plus 1 because as a way of balancing the spread of agricultural colleges in this country, we recommended to the approval of Mr. President that another one will be established in the south-south zone of this country. And you know very seriously that we need to consider political issues. We need to consider areas where there was endowment. Before now, we did not have a single college of agriculture owned by the federal government in the south-south geopolitical zones. So this time around, we have one in Bayelsa, Ogbegbiri. That is the new one that we have. So we have 17, all in all, federal colleges of agriculture and related discipline. Now, we supervise, we coordinate, and we advise the government on matters that have to do with agricultural research, agricultural training, and extension service. That is our principal function. But more so under our mandate as specified, we are expected to link up and liaise with all other agencies, just like you are representing both in the government, public and private sector, in order to make sure that we drive agricultural research with a view to enhancing agricultural productivity in this country. That is what we have. Now, when we looked at the various policies as formulated, especially the gender policy, as far as this country is concerned, we felt that there's a need for us to also key into it and make sure that we have an extract of what the country is actually directing so that we'll key into it also. We have sat down and you will not believe it, with the exploit of the women in this country in the area of agricultural research. You will be surprised that we have not projected them forward. We have not projected them because most of the things that we do, we either resort to pushing the men folk to say, go and represent us here, go and represent me here. But when we looked at it at the level of Arcn and said, look, we should not dim the light that these ladies are actually shining in this country. You will not believe it. In the last 2-3 years, we had a very serious problem of tutor in this country. Tutor is a very, very serious problem that we have in this country as far as our agricultural productivity is concerned. In Naihot, it's a lady that actually spearheaded the fight against tutor obsoleta, and maybe nobody knows her today because we have not been able to project them. Here at the level of the council, the first set of people, staff, that actually projected themselves to having their PhDs are the women. Chukumelu, Nemeka, and a good number of them. And we felt that we should not dim their light. And if they have been shining a very, very clear torchlight to us, we should be able to propagate and make sure that we also key into the gender policy of this country. This was what gave birth to having us formulate a gender policy. And by our own law, whatever we do here, we are expected to present it before the Honorable Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That we have obtained, and we have been able to get his consent. So today, we are trying to present this policy to all of you with the hope that it is work in progress. The expectation there is that even though we are going to unveil it and bring it before you, we also want to receive advice from those of you who have been involved in this mainstreaming of gender policies in this country. And for those of you that are coming from the various research institutes, we are laying a template for you to go and see what you are going to do with your research institute. We have gone ahead to make sure that we have engaged expertise, our women folk, in handling some of our research institutes. I know that the executive directors of a few of our research institutes have been women, and I know that they have performed wonderfully well. The National Veterinary Research Institute, I think this is one of the earliest that started with Professor, then Dr. Mrs. Lombin. She has done quite great. Just recently, we also appointed another lady, Dr. Mrs. Maria Mohammed, to head that institution. In Ilorin, we have the Nigerian Stores Produce Research Institute, who produce Dr. Mrs. Pesu. She has exploited, and I can tell you that what she has done to that institution is such that the person who has entered into her shoes is trying to use some extra, to fill in so that it will fit her very well. We also have women that are serving today as provost of our various colleges of agriculture. But let them come in there and project themselves as what they are. And I think that expanding the sphere of administrative capacity we have in this place to cover also the women that have done great in their own right is something that we will appreciate. Now, already we are toying with the idea of uplifting the unit. The Gender and Youth Department is currently a unit. And we are thinking that the proposed restructuring that the management has accepted to do is to try and see if we can restructure the council in such a way that we will be able to upgrade that unit into a full-fledged directorate, so that we will have a directorate for gender and women development. It's only when we do that that they will be able to come up. Because when you sit on the table and you come to the management and you look left and right, and you see that it is only a lady that is on the table. And then you begin to wonder whether some of the things we are saying, we really mean it. Before now, I think it was only charity. Charity? Yes. Charity is the one that is on the table. I don't want to go into the politics of whether she's there or not, but I just felt that you need some mix in whatever discussion you are going to hold. One of the things I did, which many people did not agree with me when I came on board newly, was we lack office space. When we lack office space, enter any office, see somebody's wife here, somebody's husband here, a spinster here, and then because of lack of space, they will just put all the men and women together. And so I said no. I asked the director of admin then, I said, you must reorganize this place. You are trying to bring, Islamization. And I said, no, it's not about Islamization. There are certain things that a woman will want to do involuntary, that it will not be good to do it in the presence of a man. So I came up with that policy. I said, you have to separate them. And I know that people didn't take it kindly. So these are the type of things that we say this policy must be able to make, the learning and work condition for women okay. For a man, we can gossip about our wives, we can gossip about our children, we can gossip about our office mates for men. But for women, it's always very, very difficult. So I'm just giving you an insight into what I think we should be able to do in order to make the condition comfortable. Elsewhere in developed countries, that should not have been an issue because everybody minds his business. But in the Nigerian context, where the problem of one person is your problem, even when you have not solved your own problem, that's the more reason why this policy needs to be apt. And of course, we know that the Nigerian women are very hardy women, because they can take any responsibility. But this policy is also trying to see why we should not demarcate between a man and a woman in an office environment. We don't want this gender issue to be strictly looked upon as if it is a woman thing. And that's why the issue of who is the head of Department of Gender, they will bring a woman. Who is the minister for women affairs, they will also bring a woman. Everything about gender, they will try to bring a woman to head that thing. And I think this policy is trying to run away from that type of thing. That we can all live within the same condition and do something. I remember one of the permanent secretaries in my state used to be a man. He threatened to resign when he was sent to the Ministry of Women Affairs, because he said, why should he be? Because immediately he comes and he says, K, permanent secretary, K, permanent secretary. K in Hausa means woman. They say K, permanent secretary. And I think we have to disabuse our minds from that. I want to welcome you more sincerely, to appreciate those of you who are here, and to also assure you that whatever you have picked from here, please always try to come back, because we will continue to serve the cause of both male and female in this research institute. After all, agriculture is a woman's activity as far as Nigeria is concerned. My mother was the one rearing the goat, she was the one rearing the chicken, she was the one rearing this. And when it comes to the harvest, it was always my mother that would go and lead us to go and do the harvest. So we have ample opportunity to also interact with ourselves and make sure that things go well.
Dr. Ifeoma Anyanwu, Head of Gender, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, representing the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Ernest Omakehi, reiterated the ministerial support and highlighted the need for the policy.
I am pleased to be invited to the unveiling of ARCN Gender Policy and Strategy. a framework for gender inclusiveness in ARCN system, and to congratulate the Executive Secretary, ARCN, in his quest to address the concerns of women through influencing the National Agricultural Research Institute on extension activities in Nigeria, and to supervise, coordinate, and regulate all agricultural research, advocates, rights, and welfare of women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, women triple roles: reproductive, productive, and community roles, as well as domestic work roles, which include care giving, sourcing, that creates time poverty to attend extension training sections, especially when these roles come to a crossroad. Access to extension is skewed towards male farmers. Gender inequalities is pervasive in agricultural sector, as females have access to productive resources. Women account for 26% of chemical inputs, 22% for extension services, 21% of agri credits, 15% of land ownership, while more than 70% of male farmers have access to the same. This data is from FAO 2012. Women's contribution to the economy through agriculture is huge, and women's vulnerability to access to inputs and extension services is low. Again, women make up about 0.5% of the population, and if they are not included in the national discourse, it means the country will not be able to meet its national and international goals, especially SDG 1, 2, 5, that are predicated on food security, health, gender equality, empowerment of all women, and empowerment of all girls, with a dictum that says, leave no one behind. Ladies and gentlemen, to address the concerns of women, there must be a conscious and concerted effort through the instrumentality of policy development that will include gender inclusive policy and, of course, mainstreaming gender to bridge gender gaps. On the part of the ministry, Gender Unit Special Duties Department was invited by the Executive Secretary in 2020 to train the staff of ARCA. And we are happy that the capacity of their staff have been addressed. The ministry produced the National Gender Policy on Agriculture, that is this, which ARCM was involved, your staff was involved in the formulation of this policy to ensure its inclusiveness. And the thrust of this policy is to promote the adoption of gender-sensitive and gender-responsive agricultural sector that ensures that men and women have equal access to control and access to agricultural inputs. It is of interest that the Permanent Secretary inaugurated a National Gender Steering Committee with the thrust of implementing the 11 objectives of this policy. It is worth of note that there are gender desk officers of departments, agencies, parastatals, National Agricultural Research Institutes, federal colleges and universities of agriculture. We will collaboratively build the skills and competencies of these officers to mainstream gender in extension services, which is one of the key objectives of the gender policy. Once more, I wish to congratulate the Executive Secretary for his gender sensitivity stance. I thank you for your attention.
Goodwill messages from the representatives of some agricultural institutes and colleges online and offline pledged their support and affirmed that all hands must be on deck for the development and achievement of the implementation of the policy.
So the new policy that we are going to unveil in a couple of minutes, the background to this one, this actually was the inception workshop or the review started during the time of my immediate predecessor, retired Mrs. Bola Makanjola. I'm actually 10 months on the seat as the head of gender. The policy now aligns to sustainable development goals to promote gender equality, zero hunger, and no poverty. So the policy we have at hand, the purpose, as indicated, is actually to provide a framework that will guarantee inclusiveness, nobody left behind, in all the operations and activities of the council and its entire system. So the goal, as already mentioned, we talk about gender equality and equity. I think yes, has done most of my explanation. I think he has already seen my slide. The issue of equality, like he said, not about women. It wasn't the women. Why it's like it's being women and it's being emphasized is that they are being disadvantaged in some areas. So where you also have more men, we also want to say that women should be encouraged. So it's about giving equal opportunity to responsibilities, roles, access, and then taking down the farming, the entire agricultural sector, not only at the research, but down to the farmers. How do they have access to resources, inputs, when you want to share inputs, are you still giving to the same people? So that will not make the poverty line to be raised. You find that because the same people keep taking the same thing over and over, the women that are at the lower level are most of the time being neglected. So we expect that through this policy, we tend to increase decision-making powers, enhance productivity, and sustainable food security when the goal is being actualized. Going forward, after this unveiling, we have the foreign action point that we have to start taking notice of the fact that the NARIs and FCAs and to implement the policy, we have to establish functional gender units. After this unveiling, make sure that all the NARIs and FCAs have functional gender units, just like we have here. Though ES has assured us that schools upgrade this headquarters to departmental level, which is in order. And then we have units at the NARIs and FCAs. We also have to conduct gender knowledge-based audits that will form the baseline for the implementation of this current policy. Advocacy and stakeholder engagement for collaborative support. Then to build capacity and institutional capacity and technical competence of the gender focal points.
It is with excitement that the National Population Commission is joining other critical stakeholders in today's event. May I commend the Arcn for the extensive research being conducted to bring to the fore the importance of gender in agricultural sector. We feel delighted to participate in the unveiling of the agricultural gender policy and strategy here today. Gender remains a central issue to the implementation of policies and strategies that transforms societies and ensure balance in development efforts. Therefore, integration of gender into policies, programs, and activities have been known to catalyze economic development. It promotes and ensures equal opportunities to both men and women in productive resources, particularly in the agricultural sector, including access to loan, land, and properties. In response to the importance of gender, the revised national policy on population for sustainable development that was launched in February 2022 and the implementation of the demographic dividend agenda by the MPC emphasizes gender mainstreaming and women empowerment in addressing all population and development concerns and entire response to the issue of gender in Nigeria. Protecting and creating a healthy environment is also a critical component of sustainable development in which agriculture plays a vital role. MPC congratulates the Arcn on unveiling of the policy and strategy, even at the inception of a new administration, which will need the evidence highlighted therein to guide informed decisions in the agri sector. We pledge our commitment to work with Arcn to ensure the full implementation of the policy to realize its set objectives. Thank you very much.
And you have emphasized the key, which is data. When we are talking and we don't have data, you don't know the number of women who are into agriculture, the things they need, even men, because gender is about men, women, boys, and girls. So it's not just only women. We have had the emphasis on women because they are the vulnerable group because of some cultural issues. The National Population Commission has all the things you will need to help you to drive what you are doing. Right now, Nigeria, we know the census processes are almost 80% gone before government said, wait for the new government to come in. So we have already mapped Nigeria very well for you to know where these farmers are. Every locality, every LGA, every state. So those details are there. You can use, you can come to collaborate and use them to know where are these farmers, where are the rural areas, where they are there. The census questions captured more than 10 questions on agriculture, industry-related agriculture, occupations that are all involved when you talk about agriculture. They have asked men and women of Nigeria what you do, what aspect of agriculture are you involved in on daily basis. So by the grace of God, I'm going to talk about what will come out of this census. Let's not talk much because the 2006 is somehow outdated now. It's not what is happening today in Nigeria. But from this 2023 census, by the grace of God, when it comes out, the data will be very clear. Like I said, from locality level to LGA level, you will know who are these farmers. You will know how many women you have in agriculture and what type of agricultural activities do they do. You will know all of that. You will know the issues surrounding their being able to source for funds so that you can know where the areas you will come in to help you drive and achieve this particular good thing you have done here.
As you are aware, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs reviewed and validated the older National Gender Policy of 2006 in the year 2021 with relevant stakeholders. The draft policy was approved by the Federal Executive Council in March 2022 to what has now become the revised National Gender Policy 2021 to 2026. The policy is awaiting dissemination to all the political zones of the Federation. The rationale behind the new policy is to make gender analysis an integral part of all policy articulation, implementation, and evaluation, to be undertaken not only by government at all tiers and within all arms, but also by all stakeholders. All stakeholders have a role to play in the achievement of gender equity and equality by instituting a gender policy that will bring about cooperative interaction of women and men, recognize the human rights of all persons, promote a culture of respect, women's and men's capabilities, cooperation and interdependence. It is worthy of note that relevant stakeholders will have commenced tailoring their policies according to their peculiarities, with the sole preoccupation of mainstreaming gender concerns into all facets of the society. I enjoin those yet to come up with their policies to do so in order to derive regulation of gender practices and compliance with performing standards that adhere to global best principles. Finally, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs is willing to collaborate and partner with organizations in mainstreaming gender into all sectors of the society. Achieving gender equality is a Herculean task, and all hands must be on deck to have a Nigeria free from all forms of discrimination against women, men, and the vulnerable groups. Thank you all for your attention.
The agitation for gender equality is an age-long global issue. From the first Women's Convention in Seneca Falls in 1848 to the Declaration of the Decade of the Women, the UDHR, the CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of All Discrimination Against Women, the Beijing Platform of Action that declared the 30% affirmative action that was increased to 35% in the 2006 gender policy, and 50% for women and 50% for men in the revised national gender policy in Nigeria, as well as the continuous proliferation of women's rights groups, gender equality laws, policies, and declarations, as a revamped act, the policy on the girl child, and every other related policies. So the milestones have been encouraging, but as a global issue, there is a long way to go in overcoming women's and girls' oppression and marginalization in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole. So the focus on gender equality has gained traction, and not just here in Nigeria, globally, especially with the adoption and ratification of policies, the affirmative actions that we stated earlier, and also the continuous agitation for the implementation of the affirmative action in Nigeria. Nigeria is not left behind in the country's commitment to attaining equality in all spheres of society. And this is exemplified in the revised national gender policy, the police gender policy, which is currently being revised, as well as other related policies. Oxford in Nigeria today applauds the efforts of this institution for the tremendous work done in seeing that Nigerian women and girls are socioeconomically empowered, and in the creation of a gender-inclusive society where no one is left behind. Oxfam identified the creation of vast opportunities for women to economically advance themselves in a critical step in tackling poverty. And as an organization, permits me to digress a little. You know, when we say Oxfam, most people usually write the farm as the usual farm. So, and what this is telling us is the importance of this sector, the agricultural sector, in our programs, our projects, as well as our policies and even our practices. So most of our projects centralizes agriculture as a major sector, as a major approach, as a major area towards empowering women, girls, and men. So through the Village Savings and Loans Association, I know most of us might be familiar with that word. It's one of the approach that we used in deepening the financial inclusion of women and girls in underserved communities. And as we all know, anything that brings money, anything that it's the ROI, the return on investment is visible, men always want to be there. So this approach was actually implemented to empower women and girls. But presently, we have more than 60% women and 40% men as members of this association. And we've been able to reach more than 200,000 households in more than 8 states in Nigeria. And we're currently scaling this up. And this approach also centralizes agriculture, especially agripreneurship, and it also provides structure for us to mainstream every other gender approaches. So also is the female food heroes, which we tag the Ogbonge women. I know our DD gender is very familiar with that. So she has been supporting us with that project. And this project is being implemented to recognize women and girls in agriculture and expand their capacity and reach in the sector. The development of workplace gender policy is currently at the draft stage. So we're working with the Ministry of Women Affairs, with the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment who was developing this policy and every other NDAs that are important. So, and then we also have a crop diversity project, which is currently being implemented in Bauchi as well as Jigawa State. And we are partnering with Equisat towards attaining the goals of this project. So, as we work towards building a gender-just society, we all know that we can no longer afford to neglect women and girls, and that is one of the important reasons why we are gathered here today and launching this policy. So Oxfam is open to collaborations and partnerships towards advancing gender equality in Nigeria and beyond. So we are always there, our door is open, and we want to work more with this organization, with this institution rather. Thank you.
This is a great opportunity to highlight the importance of agricultural research, and that's what I would like to do with my remarks here. From our side as IFPRI, we have been working in Nigeria since 2007 with a mandate to provide agricultural research findings, capacity strengthening, and policy support to the federal government through the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and other agencies, including Arcn. Very pleased that we have had the support of USAID, as I mentioned, through the Feed the Future Agriculture Policy activity, which has enabled us over the last few years to conduct research that has fed into several actions. One of the ones that we are proudest of is the restructuring, the contribution we made towards the restructuring of Arcn. We continue to support Arcn in capacity strengthening activities. And we are pleased to be here today to support the unveiling and the launch of this gender policy and strategy for Arcn. With that, let me thank you very much and wish you a successful launch and look forward to continuing to work together with Arcn and other partners. Thank you.
We're very, very delighted to actually be in this meeting, and this is actually very timely. At AATF, we actually have gender units, and we're trying to explain gender in all the projects that we're doing. One of the projects that we have in Nigeria that actually is everywhere is the beauty powder, the BBL powder. So we're actually very conscious to make sure that everybody, because gender is not just about the women, it's everyone. Both the men, the women, the youth is involved. And I think what I've actually found out about gender is, Madam, the representative of the Permanent Secretary said it right, well, using the right words. There are some words when you're going to use, you're going to clear everything out of the table. So we're also very conscious when we're communicating that to be able to get the right result. So we're very, very pleased that AATF and within us here to year 2027, gender is one of our focal points. So it's very, very interesting for us to be here and to see that our host and the governing body of the research institute, which we're also working in Nigeria, we're working with the house here, we're working with the lady here, with Serials, and then some other institutes are also trying to demonstrate this. That makes it very easy for us to achieve what we want. So thank you very much on behalf of the AATF.
Thereafter, the panel discussion, anchored by Dr. Adekemi Omole, took the center stage.
Years of experience and working in different sectors and just to engender inclusion in the agricultural space. What do you think are the bottlenecks to effective policy implementation apart from funds?
Those I mentioned it earlier, at least there must be political will of their bosses. That is key. If you don't have support from their
those in positions of authority, you cannot drive it. The second is an issue of budget line. You cannot mainstream gender on a vacuum. You need a budgetary provision in order to help you to anchor all your programs. Of course, you need to domesticate the policy for ownership. Remember that agriculture is on the concurrent list, therefore it is rural-based. Those farmers in the rural communities need to own this document, domesticate it, create awareness, let people key in and know that yes, a policy document is on ground. Of course, you don't need to forget about collaborative partnership. You can't do it alone. At least your parent ministry is there, development partners and key stakeholders who will give you the technical knowledge, the financial backup, and all the rest of them. Please identify he for she's. They are main champions that address the concerns of women. Because you cannot mainstream gender without the support of men. If we are talking of women, we are only talking to ourselves, and therefore we now go far. Look for men who are men champions, who will come out and speak for women is key, and that is what has been going for the Federal Ministry of Agriculture in terms of our policy, our national gender policy. There are key stakeholders, development partners are involved. Oxfam is here, they are collaborating with the ministry, key sectors. Of course, another key aspect is the issue of sex disaggregated data. If you are going for a policy document and you don't have a sex disaggregated data to show why you are developing this policy, to show the vulnerability of the segment of the society you are anchoring the policy for, then you are not going to make. In short, sex disaggregated data is a key component in addressing the vulnerability of any group. Are we talking of affirmative action? In a situation where we have where we are living in a patriarchal society, where men determine they have the yam, they have the knife. Which aspect of the yam they want, they cut and give to women. The best bet is to ensure an affirmative action. Are we talking of 30% or 35%? It's unfortunate that our gender bills were thrown up. That is to tell you how stereotypes, the problem women have in Nigeria. And we do not need to back up because we need to utilize another strategy, the utilization of gender tools. What are those tools? We are talking of lobbying. We are talking of, in most cases, pressure groups, women pressure groups, men pressure groups, and we're talking of, sensitization, advocacy. These are key gender tools you can leverage to anchor your policy document. What of M&E? And apart from that, the gender desk officer has to be capacitated. You need to know your job. You need to read voraciously to have the competencies that drives a gender policy. And of course, if you want to address the concerns of women, you don't do it in a vacuum. You need a policy directive. And if you have those who are backing you, a kind of signature dimension, you now try to do what we call mind mapping, where you generate dots, connect them to form a symbol.
We need that awareness, educational seminar on that. That's number one. Number two is the issue of implementation plan on the gender. I saw an area where we are talking of auditing. Auditing of our ARS, all the Agri Research Institute and colleges of agriculture, is very important on the current positioning, the roles, and incentives that are in place to mainstream gender. If we do that, then there is going to be need for us to have a formal, I call it Arcn, mentoring laboratory. It's the same thing with what award is doing, and award is being funded by Gate Foundation, Agropolis now for Francophone countries, and so many. So I see Agri Research Council of Nigeria hosting a very big mentoring orientation workshop and having players to be able to, either mentees or mentors, to work within the framework of a boundary that will be able to help us to enhance the assertiveness of our female scientists and early career scientists, either physically challenged or whoever within the diversity group that I call gender.
They will use more like tokenism. I am saying that this understanding is important because if we don't operate from a better understanding of what gender is, or gender responsive systems, or gender transformative systems really means, then we will be playing that game of tokenism, people trying to say, oh, how many women did you add to that? You say, oh, there are 10 people, but there are 2 of them are women. Okay, so we're gender responsive. And that's an error. And that error is what we are living with. I don't think it has changed. And if we don't get to change it, it will remain. It will play out in every aspect, including funding and the people who determine the funding. And most times they are not women. Even when there are women involved, they also go with that understanding. So the very first thing to do is what is gender transformative approach in any intervention, in any space. In our own case is agriculture, whether it is policy or implementation of policy. I think we need to get a good understanding of that. So that is why I'm excited that this meeting or this workshop is holding, because it's a room for us to have a better understanding and share a common understanding of what gender really means, that it is not binary male and female. It is even within the females, what you call intersectionality. Even within the females, for example, in Nigeria, extending or having a policy that reaches out to, in agriculture, that reaches out to females alone in Nigeria. How would you think about reaching out to females in northwestern Nigeria versus southeastern Nigeria? Just think about that. They are not the same women, but they're all women. So if you get to that understanding, then you begin to think, how would we include all of this in our data collection, data analysis, and then begin to say, okay, so these are steps that we need to be deliberate and intentional about, then we need to fund it, because it's going to add on to, it has its own costs associated with it. So that understanding is first, let me correct there. And the next is to begin to advocate. And we are doing that here today because I'm happy that the PAMSEC of Agriculture is there. Dr. Ernest Umakike is not here, but is represented here, and he's made some very interesting and informative presentation when he was given an opportunity to do that by his representative. So these are the things. He needs to now not end with giving a talk. He needs to say, in each organization, what are the gender transformative steps that you are taking? So for each organization, there must be a line item indicating gender research. I'm talking research for me because I'm in a research institute, so it has to be gender research. But this is what is needed across board, not to some selected, it is not to ARCN. It is important for ARCN, it is important for the existing research institutes at the colleges of agriculture that are being coordinated by ARCN.
Actually, we won't take it lightly in the council.
Thank you.
In fact, yes, we will discuss that with the executive secretary, and we'll ensure that gender is well funded. And then the issue of collaboration also, will encourage collaboration with other stakeholders. And then the issue raised by our head of department fisheries. Actually, my own observation is that it seems like men have more responsibilities. So they usually, take a larger chunk of anything that is available. And then also, when you observe, like she rightly observed, we are in a patriarchal society where men determine virtually everything. And then also the issue of ego. This is a natural inbuilt character of men. So they like to always maintain that edge over women. It's my personal decision also. And then I want to also observe our representative from the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. Actually, if it were to be a female, I wouldn't be happy. But I'm glad that it is a man, actually. That also shows the issue of what? Yes. Gender inclusiveness. Please maintain that also. Also the issue of 30% in the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. Men, ensure that you have that also.
I want to use this opportunity to thank the panelists and all the participants here for all that have been discussed. My worry is, the formula, I don't know how we adopted this formula. I just concluded a training of youth recently, and the formula given to me by ECOWAS was 30% men and 70% women. But unfortunately for them, when I got across to our stakeholders, their nominees came and I received balanced participation. I had 50% women and 50% men. I was happy within me. And when they were telling me 30%, 70%, I went to the national demographic statistics. From the National Bureau of Statistics, we have about 105 as at January 2023. The population was 105 million women and 107 million men. Is that not equal? And then and now we're about to conduct another training, and they're telling me 30% women and 70% men. And then nationally, even women advocacy, they will advocate inclusion of 30% women at the national government top representation. How did we come about this national sharing formula 30%? While we are equal in number, in our population. So, and secondly, I'm also looking at, I don't know, this policy, thank you, is for our consumption here and for the ministry, because if you give it to the farmers, we don't know how to go, but we are the ones who implement it. We are the ones who digest it. So as we are doing it, it's good that we're doing this, so that we can see how to encourage our women to shoot up to the national level. Because it's when they are there, when we have more women, we will have more favorable policies, for women.
I've had a lot of education and also sensitization to men and the women of the Fulanis. Today, So we'll handily move into any Fulani community and discuss with their women and give them any new technology we have that is for their usage. But it took not the processes. So what we are raising now is issues like justice is here. And tomorrow some of us will be opportunity to be the one to decide how many should go to men or women. And we will observe, okay, such persons have been placed earlier. No justification, we only decide as men to say women take this. So now let's also be able to be more honest to ourselves and allow women to take 40%. So gradually it will come 50-50. Thank you very much.
Dr. Madugu, chairman of the draft committee, shared the story behind the initiative of the policy and strategy, while Ms. Dr. Musa appreciated all for participating.
The gender policy, actually, it is a global issue now, issue of gender. And these have started earlier before now. We had already had one before, which we had the Arcn gender policy, which served between 2012 to 2020. And any policy you have, you're supposed to conduct an analysis of your implementation to see what are your achievements and what are the gaps. And then a new policy comes in to also buttress the new realities. Now, MDG, when it came on board, the initial one was like domicile on NDG, and we looked at how they have talked about gender equality, sensitization, and things like that. And we had a lot of achievement, yes, glory be to God on that. And we wanted to have started this earlier. But some of the issues why we couldn't conduct between 2020, we had that gap until this 2023, was the COVID that came in 2019. And because of the COVID, and then adjusting to the shock of the COVID, we couldn't have any constructive opportunity to sit and meet and discuss and decide on how it will go. But fortunately, when the COVID issue was a little bit down, we now said, okay, let's see how we can kick off to have a new gender policy that will be all-inclusive. And if you look at it, this gender policy was drawn down from the global, the national, and the sub-national and the sub-sectoral policy. That is when we now had this our agricultural research gender policy.
What actually prompted me to go this far is the point that by the time I joined the unit, they've already been in the process of reviewing the policy. I joined them at the workshop to finally review, and then it was validated. Then after that, I felt that it's not just going to be like the previous gender policy that people didn't even know. Even as a staff of Arcn, I never get to know about it. I never get to see a copy. And I felt we have to go out of that practice, that we need to make it relevant by inviting people, giving it that kind of celebration, that it has to be unveiled and let people get to know. We start from there. It's when you know that it's a document like that, you get to probe further. So buying in from the ES, he accepted. We did not so elaborate as I would have loved to do, but to God be the glory, we were able to achieve this much. People turned out, and then that's not working in silos. We can't just achieve it alone. We need to engage the donor agencies, the funding partners, development partners, and then the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and other ways, our own parents' body. They are doing a lot.
That has been our special report on Arcn television. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep watching more of our programs. I remain Hilda Homsen Franton saying